Welcome in. I have someone that you may have already heard of, and if you haven't, I'm very happy to introduce to you. We've got Minnie Portable in the house. Minnie, thank you for stopping by.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Minnie is very active in the the reacting to wrestling, YouTube wrestling, TikTok, Twitch, everywhere with pro wrestling at this point. If you haven't already stumbled upon her channel like I have, the first thing that I really want to talk about with you is you just recently did something that's almost kind of like a mini dream of mine, and you got invited to do commentary at a
Oh,
wrestling show.
yeah,
Which,
I did.
how did that happen? That's awesome. How did that even happen?
So the sound engineer from Nox Pro has been following me for more than a year now. He's the one that's gotten me certain opportunities, as in like, hey, like, do you want to come out to the show? Do you want to like help us promote it? I was like, sure. Apparently they knew me because, well, they knew me as the Jacob Fatu girl. Because I would make a lot of videos on Jacob Fatu before he even got to the WWE because I wanted him to get signed. So when the opportunity came up, he was just like, "What about Minnie? Like, do you want her to do commentary?" And it happened just like that. And then I got in there. I went to their dojo. Nice people. Did commentary. Felt like I was a part of one of my own streams. I was extremely comfortable.
Were you already familiar with the show that you were commentating on?
I was familiar with some of the wrestlers. I did go in there and I asked, what are your movesets or what's your finisher? I don't want to say moveset because that's gonna piss off CM Punk.
Yeah,
So I don't want to say
as of
that.
recently, I've found
Like,
out not to
I
say that.
can't. So let me not say that. But I did ask their finishers. I was like, "Are you gonna be involved?" And they were like, "Yeah." What's your finisher? Do you know where you're gonna hit? Essentially, as you know, professional wrestling is kind of like it's a live theatric. So a lot of them were like, "I really don't know what I'm going to do yet," and I was
That's
like,
funny.
it's funny, but it's so like, wow, this sport that we love so much, like there's so much that goes behind the scene that's so last minute too. Like a lot of them, even when I got to the show and I got there 4 hours before, I was like, hey, so do you know if you're gonna hit your finisher? They were like, I still don't know yet. We're gonna find out as soon as like I get in there. I was like, cool, man, just let me know what it is and then I got it. I'll call it.
That's so funny because it doesn't, because I'm like super new to it, so it doesn't seem like something that you could just improvise. It feels like something you would really need to have rehearsed and down, because I have a little bit of like a theater background, but that's not improvised. Like that's all, every step and everything is planned out. So that is just, that's cool that even at like a smaller show level, they can be like, yeah, we're just gonna improvise and see what happens. And I don't really know what's gonna happen yet. That's awesome. Was there any, I know you said that you wish you could have recorded more, because I did watch that video. Was there any extra moment that you'd want to like share that maybe happened during it that you wish you maybe would have caught on camera?
I wish I would have caught like myself doing it because I just felt so natural, but then also just like the background of everything, how like an indie promotion works. Because just like what you said, right? It's like it is a smaller show, but it's sort of the same thing that happens in like the bigger shows. Like last minute things change. Uh like they call an audible, they tell the ref and they're like, "Hey, this is actually going to happen or this person is going to go over," which is why professional wrestling is so great and it should be predictable but also unpredictable, and I think that's the perfect balance, and I think that's why we enjoy it because sometimes we're like, oh, I thought this was gonna happen but now this is gonna happen. So it's like the same thing in a smaller promotion. So the bloodline, the high chief, Black Pearl, he's the actual high chief. He's the one that runs Nox Pro, which is insane. I did not know that he was the actual high chief of the tribe, you know? So he comes up to me and he was just like, Minnie, thank you for doing commentary. And I wish I was recording that because I was like,
That's so
high
sick.
chief. Yeah, I know. I was like, damn, I did not record this moment.
That's actually awesome. That's cool. It's cool that it got to that point, and that it's cool that they thought of you. Like that's got to feel really cool that they thought they wanted to bring you out uh
Mhm.
and do something like. Did you feel like you were kind of good at it? Like, does it feel like pretty natural?
I left there so confident. I was
Oh
like,
yeah.
I fucking killed it. And I'm not like I'm confident, but I'm also so insecure, you know? Like I feel like a lot of people are like that. But I'm insecure but confident, and I left that like killed it. Like I
That's
was like,
awesome.
I did a good job.
So you're fully aware at this point. This channel kind of spawned out of just a curiosity of wrestling, and I was already kind of doing content in general. Once I fell in love with wrestling, I'm like, I want to combine the two. I'm going to just try to be the new guy in town. But it does have me curious on some of these creators that I watch, and I'm very curious for you. What exactly got you into wrestling, and how long ago was that?
So I got into wrestling just by passing a TV screen. I saw wrestling. I thought it was cool. My dad, my brothers were in the living room watching it. I wasn't allowed to watch it. Don't need to go down that rabbit hole, but I would sneak in the hallway and like just sit down, watch wrestling as they were watching wrestling, and I was like, "This is cool." I saw Eddie Guerrero. I immediately loved Eddie Guerrero. I saw Lita doing all this cool stuff with the boys. I was like, that's cool. Like, I want to do that too. So that's essentially what got me into wrestling. I've been a wrestling fan for 22 years now.
God, that's awesome. I'm super jealous on that. Like, I know there's people who be like, "Oh, you got in at the perfect time," but it's like I kind of wish that I had it when I was like, when I would have had like friend groups who maybe would have been in it and celebrate it with them and kind of get into it then. That's interesting that they were watching it, but you weren't allowed to watch it though. Was it just an age thing?
I know it's a misogynist thing, but
Fair.
rabbit
Understood.
hole.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right, that's fair. Yeah, wrestling. I mean, I just got lucky that Peacock was paid for by my internet, and I kept seeing all these ads pop up, like WrestleMania is going on, WrestleMania, and I had a couple friends in a Discord who used to, there's a large group that all used to watch wrestling because, like, tough era.
Yeah.
I put it up on the screen, and not only am I full fledged in it now, but all those people that I was watching with are now back into it. So it seems like this new era has done a lot to not only bring in a lot of new faces, but bring in people who kind of, I guess, gave up on the product probably in like the 2010s ish era, maybe. I don't know if that was
Yeah,
like,
yeah, that's cool that your friends are back into it.
yeah, that was cool because they were the ones. It was really nice because I didn't start doing content around it for like a year. I was just watching religiously, going to shows. And so at least I had a couple people where I could ask the questions like, who's this guy? Why does this matter? What's this reference? And so that was pretty cool. So then how did it turn into, so you've been watching it for so long. At what point did you want to hit record or go live and like turn it into kind of what you've done now?
So I wanted to be a wrestler. That was like my dream. I started working out at an early age. I did everything to become a wrestler, essentially. Like I took acting classes. I like that was the goal. But then like right after high school, I realized life fucking hits you. I got a curveball. I'm sorry if I can't curse here. I won't curse again.
No, you're totally good.
Okay. But it hit me in a direction where I had to work two jobs, and I couldn't really put money into wrestling school. And then at a certain time, I got lazy, and then I was like, I love wrestling. Like I love wrestling. I think at that time I was like, by the time where I just got lazy, I think I was like 25, 26, and I was like, I want to do this thing, but for some reason, like I'm making all these excuses, and I understand that a lot of wrestlers like sort of sleep in their cars and they pay for wrestling school. Uh, so 30-year-old Minnie goes on Twitch and starts streaming wrestling clips. I garnered somewhat of an audience through that, and then I started posting on TikTok, and I garnered somewhat of an audience, but I didn't grow. So I kind of had like the same audience coming back, and they were like, "You got to post on TikTok if you want to grow. Post on TikTok." So I was like, "All right, okay, cool." I posted on TikTok. I made this really dumb. You can probably find it on TikTok. My original TikTok account got banned, but it's a powerbomb video, and it's me just talking about like, oh yeah, like powerbomb me, whatever. It was so dumb. It went super viral in like on TikTok in the wrestling community. So that sort of platformed me in a sense. I think I went from 2,000 followers to like 30,000 followers in 3 months. But that was also just because I took the opportunity, I capitalized off it, I kept posting videos, and I kept streaming. And then sort of the reaction became the thing to do. So that's how I'm doing this now.
It's so funny that all that work but like a clip like that can be the one that just takes off just because of how TikTok works. That's just the
Yeah.
thing that gets like shared and rewatched and stuff like that. Were there any other creators that you watched beforehand before you got into it, or? Like, was there someone you kind of I could do that? Like, that seems like something I'd like to do.
Yeah, Simon Miller, I don't know if you're too familiar with him,
Hmm.
but he was one that I was like, he basically thinks the way that I do, but he's very nice with it, and I'm like, I think the same way as you, but I'm like spicy with it. So I was kind of like, I could kind of be what you're doing right now, but just a little spicier. But it's just kind of like that's, like I could have a filter, but at the same time, like it's kind of like I think some of the IWC needs to hear it. Like
Yeah,
some of them have not been told the things that they need to be told.
kind of
So,
they need to hear the truth. That's what it is.
yeah, yeah.
I feel like that spice that you can bring that comes with the confidence of watching for as long as you have. I feel like if I came in with that spice, I just look arrogant because I'm like, hey, I know what like what I mean. I just start watching, and I don't feel like I could bring that extra like because I don't think that I don't have that confidence in terms of like when I'm saying like, oh, that feels like a bad call or that was weird or something like that. Like I'm still kind of a lot of things I'm still seeing for the first time, like a lot of angles. Longtime wrestling fans can be like, oh, we've seen this angle before. It happened back in 2000 whatever between these two guys. For me, great example would be the AJ Styles like retirement speech or something, where and then everyone's
Mhm.
like the suit, and I'm like,
Yeah,
what are
yeah,
you
Mark Henry.
talking
Yeah.
about? And
The
um,
pink swimsuit. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
right, and I think it was Santi that put it really well. It was like, hey, yeah, that was more like a treat for us longtime wrestling fans, but there's a ton of new people who had no clue that was coming. And myself and my
Mhm,
fiance Tally, it completely caught us off guard because we don't have that reference point.
mhm.
So it's very interesting to see how differently those things can be perceived, and I think that's where your confidence to kind of take the angle that you do with a lot of this comes from, and I like that. That's why I enjoy watching it. You and Wheezy as well. I love that there is a like I'll watch your streams, and there'll definitely be these moments that people will just kind of they'll say like the wildest stuff in chat like
Mhm.
regarding like what's going on, and I love how quickly in some situations you instead of just ignoring a lot of it and just letting it grow and get worse, it gets shut down, and I'm like, I respect that. I like that it's kind of it's like it's keeping it tame, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, but I'm also confident with people because if that happened in my chat, like if you were like, "Oh, I didn't know this" or whatever, and somebody was like, "Oh, how do you not know this?" I would have immediately been like, "Oh, maybe they're new wrestling fans." Like it's like
It's almost like we
I
all haven't watched it
yeah
as long as
yeah like but also even if you were like a long time wrestling fan, you probably have work or you didn't watch wrestling during a certain period, so you missed stuff. It's okay. I don't like gatekeepers, so I usually try to shut that down. Yeah.
a term that I see a lot with those types of either chatters, commenters, or just viewers in general. Um, One that has really kind of hit me and really just annoyed me to a core. And I'm curious especially a long term viewer like yourself, what do you make of the term buried or just bury in general? What is that? Does it even have a meaning to you? Like, do you believe there is a scenario where it is a proper use now, or do you think it's just a way for anyone to address anyone who lost a match that they didn't think they should lose?
At first, I thought you were gonna say botch. Second, being a wrestling fan for this long, I have used the term buried before. But I obviously, like, as you get older and as you grow, you're just kind of like, okay, just girl, just you can move on from saying buried just because something didn't go a certain way. I don't necessarily think people are being buried. There are times where certain stars did get buried. And I think the last time, to my knowledge, I don't have the best memory. The word that was actually properly used with the buried was Austin Theory. Because John Cena came out there and John Cena said, if you win, you lose, and if you lose, you still lose against me. And after that, he hasn't seen like that much momentum afterwards. So
Yes,
it's like,
that was my first match. That would have been the first match of WrestleMania 39,
oh
right? That was
yeah,
the first full wrestling match I had
yeah,
ever seen.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we haven't seen that much sort of like movement with Austin Theory. I'm okay with it, but I'm not okay with it because I think it's just thrown so loosely. I don't think
Yeah.
people actually use it the right way that it's supposed to be used. I think people are just like, oh, so and so got buried just because they took a loss. And it's like, sure, Carmelo Hayes took a loss against Cody Rhodes, like, against the WWE champion. What do you mean? Yes, that's okay. Like,
Yeah,
he's
that's
going
fine.
against the WWE champion. That's good. That's not being buried. That's growth. That's good.
Right. And you thought I was gonna say botch. Is there any reason why that one came? Like, it sounds like that's when you were already ready to go up again. So I'm very curious, because I agree. I've seen up botched, but there are times where it's actually really tough for me to tell if something was going as planned or not, because of how well these professionals can improvise immediately after. And I think a part of it is I notice it doesn't seem like they really. I guess unless it's supposed to be like the big spot, it feels like if something feels like it missed, instead of making it obvious that it was, oh, we got to run that again, they just kind of move on to something else. And I think with how quickly they move on, uh, it keeps me suspending my disbelief a little bit more. Like, oh, maybe that was supposed to be her kind of making a mistake here. He was supposed to slip a little bit here. Is that something else that you think just gets way overused anytime somebody like stumbles?
Yeah, I just don't like it because I've never like ran the ropes. So for me to be like, "Oh, you fucked up," I said I wasn't gonna curse. I'm sorry. For me to say you botched something, it's just kind of silly for me because it's a live performance. You're in front of a crowd,
Mm-hmm.
and they train and they put in all this effort. They have a really tough schedule, so it's like things just happen. It's a live
It does
performance.
get
Like
used as an insult. That's what it's not like,
it,
oh, there's a little bit
it
of a
does.
botch. It's more like, wow, you totally screwed that. It does feel like it's brought
Yeah.
with a different energy.
Yes, and it's like if you want to say like, "Oh, that probably wasn't supposed to happen." Cool, like cool, whatever. Because I've seen it happen, and I'm just like, okay, that's fine. Like you still picked it up, whatever. But there, it's sort of derogatory now because of the way that the IWC uses it. If it was in the way that you said, you're like, "Oh, I think that was a botch," whatever. Like it's kind of like something that it's like, all right, whatever. Shit
Mm.
happens. Uh, Things happen, but at the end of the day, it's a live performance. So it's just, I feel like it's a term that is unnecessary. But if you do use it, I don't think you should use it in a derogatory way.
I'm with you there. I think it is acceptable when you're talking about Tongaloa, but that's only because it has been this massive meme
That's
at
my
this
goat.
point. That's
That is
fine.
my
I
goat.
feel like the
Yes.
whole Bachaloa thing is just so funny to me, and I do wonder how aware he is of that meme that's going on. Like, I wonder if
Very aware.
do you think he's enough of a professional to not think about it? If he like makes a tiny mistake in a match, do you think he's like, yeah, that'll be like afterwards? Do you think he's like, yeah, that's gonna be on Twitter. That's gonna be the one that the fans latch onto. I believe it.
I think he's very aware, and I agree with you. If you're gonna use a botch, like if you're gonna use the term botch, then use it in the certain way of like you're uplifting a character because
Yeah.
everybody was talking about Tagaloa botching, but now he's the goat. So
Yeah, even when it's like an ironic, like support behind something, it's way better than the alternative of everybody just bashing on someone who, like you said, it's live. It's a live stunt show. Things are not always going to go as planned, and it's almost kind of endearing. And it's a little bit when stuff does, not when anyone gets hurt by any means, but like if something slightly goes off schedule or something's a little bit off, I think that's kind of a reminder, like we're watching something live. Like this isn't going to be perfect. I think that's one of the reasons why that I really, really was drawn into this, is because when I found out it was live, there's no redos, there's no, you can't just edit out the takes you didn't like, and it's in front of people. It's not just live, it's in front of a live audience. So you can't even really hide things that well. It's one of the reasons I fell in love with it in the first place. So, um,
love that.
but AEW. So you grew up watching more. You've been watching for a long time, well before AEW existed. What drew you in?
Yeah, so AEW came in 2019, and 2019 for me, WWE was not serving me whatsoever. I just stopped watching it. It probably was like one of the worst years that I've seen in that company since I started watching, to like my faintest memory. Because I took breaks, so there probably was like a worse year. But 2019 was just really bad for me. So I was like, I don't want to watch this product, and then AEW came to fruition. I was always a Cody Rhodes fan too, and I know that he sort of like was the pioneer of it behind it. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna watch this. I already liked a bunch of the independent wrestlers on there too. So I was like, cool, I'm gonna watch the first pay-per-view that they had. I was like, this is awesome. This is what I want from wrestling. Uh that's kind of like how I started watching AEW from then on. But obviously now, uh there's been a transition, and I'm sure we'll be talking about that. But there's been a transition with an AEW, but now I can actually watch both products and enjoy them.
One of the rares to be able to openly watch both products and enjoy it. It feels like I've
Yeah.
even seen some people that say they watch both shows. They'll always have something really positive to say about one, and they're always criticizing the other. So it makes me feel like,
Yeah.
do you really like both shows, or is that just your way of like kind of blending in until you can bash something you don't like? For me with AEW, I found out there was another wrestling show, basically. Like maybe actually it was probably like over a year after watching WWE. I was kind of aware there were other shows, but it wasn't even remotely on my radar of like checking it out whatsoever. And then I started watching it just by watching Double or Nothing, which was an insane show to be my
Yeah.
first show. Like I think the video I made on it, there was one part where I listed like someone got hit by a truck, somebody was lit on fire, somebody was super kicked in the face with thumbtacks on their feet or their face or whatever. Like I couldn't believe what I was actually seeing, and I was like, oh, I have to watch the next pay per view. I have to kind of like I got to get some more of this because it's a very different product than I feel like I see on WWE. And it's not to say that because I see the common criticisms of both shows. So when I see like people say there's no stories like in AEW, I see that there are, but I think it's just a mental capacity for me to be able to. I'm already watching so much since I've already gotten locked into WWE that I think it's okay that when I watch AEW, I'm really interested in the in-ring stuff. Like some of the stories kind of get me. I think Tony Storm, if you can't tell,
Yeah, no, I saw it.
I think Tony Storm is, especially with the recent stuff going on with the whole like amnesia thing.
Yeah,
I think that is so interesting. I think she's a very good character worker. I think that she's very, even in, I think she reminds me of Ludwig Kaiser, where their character is on 100% of the time, even during the match. You can see it on their face. Like at no point does it feel like they bail on it for a spot or for a stunt, but they're constantly making the facial expressions, and I respect that so much, especially when you're doing like a physical, a painful art at the same time. So she won me over very quickly. But is there something kind of like that where for me I watch AEW because I can't get enough of the in-ring stuff. I really think it's awesome, and I try to catch the story stuff that I can keep up with. Is there something from each show that you feel like gives you something, not that the other one doesn't, but maybe that you watch this show for this and you watch this show for this?
So before I was watching AEW, because of the wrestling, it had like the kind of like wrestling that I was like, cool, this is like what I tuned in for. And then I was watching WWE to see what was happening there. But now with the whole with like Triple H taking over and Shawn Michaels in NXT, now WWE has that wrestling. So now they have the story, they have the wrestling, they have the characters. They they pretty much have it all. They really do.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why they are the top production that they are right now. WWE legit has everything. Sometimes some Raws or SmackDowns, there are a lot more promos and story driven shows, and I'm okay with it because I know Wednesday night I'm gonna watch wrestling. So for me, I'm like, cool, whatever. I know that there's an audience that complains about that, and I'm just like, so Wednesday, just tune in, you can watch your wrestling. But so what keeps me into Dynamite right now is I'm so invested in the characters that were built off AEW, like Tony Storm, like MJF, like Swerve. So I'm not sure if I'm sure you know now, but Swerve and Tony were in WWE. I'm sure you.
I
And,
have seen a
and
Tony Storm match in WWE. I didn't know it at the time, but I thought that was so cool. It's really
yeah,
cool seeing all the places they came from like before and see their character and their talent develop. It's cool.
yeah, yeah. So they were in WWE, but they weren't stars in WWE, you
Mhm.
know? So once they're in AEW, they capitalized off of that and they became stars. I appreciate that. Like, I love a promotion that's going to go ahead and amplify and platform these wrestlers that were probably underappreciated in a different company. And you know they were underappreciated because everything that Tony Storm has done in this company, she sort of is the reason why she's one of the reasons why a lot of people still watch AEW, right? Because you're just kind of like, well, Tony Storm is kind of like the hope of AEW, and then you can talk about Swerve that way, and you can talk about MJF that way, even though he hasn't been in WWE. But it's like I'm so invested in the talent that started off in AEW that just got picked up at an indie show and became these huge stars. And I don't think that attachment is going to go away just because some people say, well, this sucks or blah blah blah. Like, no, I'm so invested in these individuals that I'm going to keep supporting the company. So I watch AEW because of the individuals themselves, because the wrestling is good.
Yes.
Do do I think that they need to focus more on character development and story? Yes, 100%.
So you do see it as not necessarily like we'll call it a room for improvement. It would be like to lean more into it. So it's not necessarily you don't think that what the story that they do is poor. It's that you wish they would do a little bit more just with it in general, that they would lean more into it.
Yeah, I think they have a lot of stars. They have a lot of talent. They have the talent.
For sure.
They have the talent. They can do a lot more with building more characters and stories with the talent. That's not saying that they don't, because I think a lot of people say they have no storylines. That's not true. They do have storylines.
Yeah.
But I think they should definitely focus on giving more story towards like the roster. Yeah.
Yeah, I could very confidently say it's not a there is no stories issue. It's a this was the show that I found second, and had already been watching WWE for as long as I had, so I am locked in on like all these different storylines, all these different characters that
Yeah.
jumping over to a bunch of characters I'd never heard of. It's like being thrown in the middle of a middle season of any other show that you're not sure yet. So while I'm still keeping track of this, so I've picked a couple storylines a little bit that I can follow, almost like I feel like as it leads up to a pay-per-view, I can kind of lock into one and understand it. But I feel like if I tried to like learn all of it at once, I wouldn't learn any of it. Like it would all kind of mesh together. But I love exactly what you're saying, where it feels like a lot of these people, a lot of these characters, these performers that didn't necessarily get the right chance previously, which you could say it was straight up underappreciated. You could say that it's just too many people. There's so not everybody can get that, that push. And to see some of them come over and find out that they got their real shot at AEW and now they've turned into stars, that does also draw me in, because I do, in like a non-parasocial way, like I do care for the performers themselves.
Yeah.
Like I want them to love what they're doing. I want them to, like, I feel happy for them that they are able to achieve and achieve their childhood dreams and stuff like that. I think that's the kind of thing that gets me like all up in my feels a little bit, where I'm like, that's cool. Like you probably did that like in your bed. Like I see all these TikToks of people hitting like a tombstone on a pillow, and I'm like, that would have been me if I had known about this like way sooner. So seeing them get to like do that, like that always gets me all like, it gets me all happy with it. So we talked about like Dynamite and all that. Do you watch more than Dynamite? I guess would be do you watch all three of the weekly AEW shows?
So I used to watch Collision, and then Collision just fell off for me, so I don't watch it anymore.
Okay.
The last one I did see, Okada was in it, and it was a really good Collision, but I don't keep up with it anymore. I've heard that things picked up, but I haven't actually put myself back into it. So.
And Tony Storm had her return on Collision, right?
Okay.
Does that bum you out?
There's a couple things that happen on Collision, and it does bum me out, but also it happens while there's a WWE PLE.
Those are on Saturdays, right? Yeah, those are.
Yeah. So for me, I'm just kind of like, all right, like business is business. You got to do what you got to do. But at the same time, it's like I would rather you put them on the A show, because more people are going to watch Dynamite. So like, you could capitalize off of that more, just a little more, But Tony Storm returned on Dynamite, but had her first match on Collision, and I have not seen that yet. So
yeah, it's like there's a balance of, I guess you have to make the decision. Do you want to make Collision? I see the goal of, if we do this on Collision, it'll make Collision feel more like a show you don't want to miss.
Yeah,
but but you also run the risk like this where people end up missing it because they're looking, they expect that's going to happen on a Dynamite. Right now I watch Dynamite. I don't watch it live. I usually watch it before bed. I'll kind of like skip through a couple of, you know what I can't watch is the picture in picture on either show. For whatever reason, when picture in
Oh, I
picture
don't.
comes up, if I
I
can
don't.
fast forward, I'm skipping to the part where because I know
Yeah.
nothing can happen
Hmm.
other than nothing that's going to move the match forward is going to happen there. So I'll skip through a little bit of that, but I can't. There's no shot that I could watch because I'm also I would love to be able to add NXT to my rotation. So if I do that, you're talking like 6 shows, and then
Hmm.
on pay-per-view or PLE weeks, like that's just not possible. So it's
Every
like you
day.
got to
Yeah.
trim, I guess, somewhere, but kind of a bummer.
Yeah. Yeah, but don't feel bad for not paying attention to picture in picture. I also don't pay attention. Like it's like I know, yeah, like they're not gonna get the pin picture in
Right.
picture. And I've been yelled at by my chat. You're not even focusing on picture in picture. I'm like, I'm talking to you guys. Like it's like
I
this is
would
my time
almost
to talk to
rather
you
get a full
guys.
ad so I don't like get tricked into like
No,
thinking
yeah.
something could happen. At that
So
point,
sorry.
just give me a full like commercial and I'll skip that.
Yeah.
Um, so you did the forgive me if I was it Knox Pro that you did the
Knox
thing
Pro,
with?
yeah. Mhm.
Is that so? You were only a little bit familiar. We were familiar with some of the wrestlers there. Are there any other smaller promotions like that that you kind of, you keep a pulse on, like you kind of check up on, or is it just the main 2 shows right now?
So, I do watch. I watch MLW. Are you familiar with MLW?
Is that the one? Dijak's in that one, right?
Yeah. So,
That's the one you went
I
to.
don't know if he's. I don't know if he's signed yet because MLW is one of the independent promotions that actually have contracts.
Hmm.
Which is so Jacob Fatu was in there and he was the longest reigning champion in MLW. But the reason why he couldn't get signed was because he was locked in a
Hmm.
contract, and a lot of indies don't do that. So I don't know if he's locked in.
I don't know.
I've
I think MLW
uh,
was the shirt he was. I did a video with him not that long ago, and I think
mhm,
he was wearing an MLW shirt, and I've seen him
mhm.
like repost some stuff. Like I think of him being there. I don't know if that means he's there long
He's
term or
been
what.
there. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay,
He's been there. I don't know if he signed it though, because I didn't see anything. But regardless, yes, that's the one that Dijak promotes. So I keep up with MLW because they have their pay-per-views free on YouTube. So I
oh, that's
usually
cool.
tune in for the pay-per-view. Yeah. So I tune in for that. I tune into some Rev Pro stuff because sometimes you got AEW talent on there. Um and I used to watch a lot of like New Japan stuff, but I don't watch it that much anymore because a lot of the talent that I watched it for, they're in AEW. So
Okay.
yeah. Mhm.
I think the most that I have gotten to keep up with, I don't even want to credit myself with saying keep up with. It's more like when I think about it, I'll try to like search them up and like I'll check some highlights here and there. But it was TNA because I knew I was going to be going to Bound for Glory. I'm like, I should try to learn a couple names maybe. But I ended up forgetting most. I ended up only locking in on like Jordan Grace and like Joe Hendry. Like, then I
Yeah.
found out the Hardy Boys
Yeah.
were going to be at the show I was going to. I'm like, okay, like that you would think that would be something getting into it in my 30s that I would have missed the boat on. Like I'll never see the Hardys in a ladder match. Well,
Mhm.
was I wrong? I got to see a ladder match with the Hardys at age 32, which is nuts that they're still doing that at their age and like and their
Yeah.
talent. It's a little scary because there are definitely
Yeah.
moments of like, ooh, like please get up, please get like please. All right, he's good. All right, he's good. He's doing more stuff. He should be fine.
They did
Um,
it just last week too. It's just yeah. So you went to Bound
yeah,
for
that came
Glory.
up to
Okay.
Detroit in
Yeah.
yeah, not too long ago. That was really cool. And then seeing like the Joe Hendry everything live, seeing Jordan Grace live was dude, she's a monster. Like it looks like she looks great on TV, but like when they walk right in front of you, they're just like they look like action figures. Like that's the best
Yeah,
way I could
there's
put it.
stars. There
It's
these yeah,
crazy.
there's mhm.
Um, but I don't remember what I was asking you about. I feel like when I started talking about TNA. Um, oh, okay. Speaking of these random wrestlers, maybe a chance to give a little bit of credit or some love to some of these maybe main eventers from your perspective, either show,
Mhm.
um, or both. Like if you want to pick one from both or something. Is there a wrestler that you think that people are kind of sleeping on that they're gonna maybe turn into more like maybe a lot of people discredit them or just kind of like they're like maybe no one's really maybe you Minnie watching for 20 plus years you see something you know what I'm trying to get at here. Is
Yeah.
there someone that you've spotted in the crowd that no one else is really kind of picking up on?
So this is gonna be so pretentious. The people that I spotted already are sort of in that trajectory. Bronson Reed was one of them. Chad Gable was one of them. Except I think Chad Gable, I don't know what's happening right now. I think it's still a mistreatment towards Chad Gable because I don't like. I need a title on him.
But not buried, right?
But
'Cause I've heard it.
he's not buried. He's no. See. That's why buried becomes annoying because you're just like, oh, he's
I always say
buried.
that because he's one of the people I've heard so many people say like he
Oh
got
yeah,
buried because
no,
they
me
didn't put
too.
the title on him. It's
Yeah,
a lot.
me too. But he just had a match with Cody Rhodes. He had
Mhm.
a match with the WWE champion. It's like at this point they just don't really know what to do with Chad Gable, which is understanding. You have a stacked roster, but as long as you still see him in the vision, I'm okay with that. So I don't want to sound pretentious, but I called Bronson Reed. I called Chad Gable. Let's see who else. I've been so AEW. Do you know Brody King?
I know the name. I wouldn't be able to pick out of a lineup though.
He's the big guy with the tattoo that's in House of Black. He had a match with Darby Allin and he won.
First person I think of in there is that'd be Malachi though. He's the one who's covered in
Malachi Black.
tattoos. Yeah,
And then there's Rhea Ripley's husband. Sorry, Buddy Matthews.
buddy. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, Buddy. And then there's the other guy, which is like the bigger dude.
I think that might be the
Let's see.
one that. This is perfect because
Uh,
this is exactly fits the question. Because if he's who you're gonna pick and
yeah.
he's the one I don't remember, this is a perfect answer. If you think that he's someone that people are kind of overlooking a little bit.
Yeah, so him, he's like the one wrestler right now that I'm like, no, dude, like you're a king. Like your name is Brody King, but you're also a king, and I know what's happening for you. So that's the wrestler that I for sure see become a huge star in 2025. Hopefully, if AEW doesn't do it, eventually, I'm pretty sure WWE will pick him up.
I like that alone is going to make me pay more attention when he's on screen though. That I'm going to take your word on that one. My inexperienced like uneducated pick is, and I almost feel it's more like I feel bad because once like a meme picks up, once the internet starts saying something about someone, it just becomes popular to say. But mine I feel like is Zoe Stark, and I feel like everyone makes fun of her like her like no charisma. And I'm going to be honest, putting her in PFC did not help. That did not
No, it
help
didn't. It didn't.
the situation at all. But like I love her in the ring. I think she's got a great look. I think that I think she does bring like that really good heel energy that I could see now that there's mid-card titles. I could see her being someone to take it to kind of piss people off a little bit, the heel that holds onto the title and defends it. Like I see that for Zoe. I want it because her matches I feel like are always pretty solid, especially I think the one that put me on her radar a little bit more was it Survivor Series last year? Or I think she faced Rhea, right? I think she had a shot against Rhea at Survivor Series last year. Yeah, it has to be because I remember there being the two rings. So she got her shot. I remember
Oh,
she
Survivor
came
Series,
in.
yeah,
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 she came in with like the face paint and all that. I'm like, she's got a cool look. Like I kind of like this as like in hindsight, Rhea was still a heel. But I guess that was more of like she's the heel that everybody loves, and Zoe's the heel
yeah.
that.
Hmm.
But
That you're
um,
gonna boo. Hmm.
yeah, so she's my like I don't really know what I'm talking about, but I feel something there. Like I feel like she's going to be something. It's probably not going to happen while she's in PFC because it's just not
I
hitting.
just Yeah, I just don't know what they thought when they named them PFC, first of all. I think just
That was going to get
doing
memed immediately. Yeah,
like Pure Fusion Collective, I think that's so long. And then if you want to shorten it and say, oh, but everybody's gonna going to call them PFC, it's still like you already ruined them by that long name. Shayna Baszler is another one that I was always rooting for, and I actually wanted her to um be the first mid card women's champion, whether it was the United States or the IC champion. Chelsea Green, I'm 100% okay with
great
it.
pick.
Yeah, but yeah, PFC is not doing anything for these women,
On
unfortunately.
paper, it seemed like a good idea to me. Like if you told me just the idea like a year ago, like I like all three of those names, that could be kind of cool. But the execution of it just feels like it
Mhm.
just kind of swung and missed. It just doesn't feel
Yeah,
like it. Like if you told me Shayna Baszler, who's been projected to be like this badass, like that could be cool. I already like Zoe. I hadn't gotten to see a lot of Sonya. I saw her, then she was tagging with Chelsea Green,
yeah.
and she got
Yeah,
injured. So I liked her look, but like I didn't really know anything about her character work or any of her like
she's an
in ring
MMA
stuff.
fighter.
So she was. I didn't know
Like,
that.
yeah, so they should be
Yeah.
dominant.
So you see what I mean then? On paper, it's like this is not a bad idea, but the name
Yeah.
went weird. The usage of it went. It just it was. It feels like it's just kind of were waiting for idea to pass. We never
Mhm.
know. I guess they could find some way, but
Maybe, I don't know. They didn't book them right, so
yeah, it hurts even more when it's a faction almost completely made of people who I would root for individually, but
yeah.
like as a group, it's just uh, it's not really hitting. So kind of on that, you might be better at identifying strengths and weaknesses of the shows of how they can elevate certain types of wrestlers. Do you feel like there's any current wrestlers on either show that you think would benefit from being on the other just purely because of what their strengths may be and what the show leans into?
Yes, there were certain wrestlers that well, there's wrestlers in WWE that I was like, you could fit in more in AEW. One of them being Ricochet, but I didn't actually think he was going to switch. I really didn't. I didn't know what was going on with Samantha Irvin at the time, though.
Hmm.
Like any of it. So I was like, there's no shot that Ricochet is actually going to leave. And then he left. Now he's in AEW. I think he fits in AEW. I think it's a perfect fit for him. I'm also the kind of person that will wait it out. I'm not just gonna be like, oh well, you left WWE for this. Look what they're doing to you. Like all this, like it's like I'm gonna wait it out at least a year. You know, it's like you have to build up to certain stuff. You can't just like give them everything. Um, there's Ricky Starks.
Yeah.
So he is someone that I'm like, you need to go to WWE just because you have everything. Like you have the wrestling, you have the charisma, you have the character, you have the mic skills, you have everything. So I'm like, if you go to WWE, you should be a top. If you're not a top mid card star, then you should be NXT champion. Like there's certain wrestlers that I do see that can fit more within a different company, and there's wrestlers that I can see fit more with the other company.
Yeah, for sure. And Ricochet would have been for the longest time. I felt like because of how much I just enjoyed so much of the in-ring stuff in
Hmm.
AEW. I'm like, Ricochet just like when I describe what I like about Ricochet, it also sounds like I'm describing AEW. Like I feel like he would just do great over there. And then I started watching some older matches and seeing him in like Will Ospreay, and I'm like, well, now I have to see him on AEW. Like
Yeah.
I want to see all that go down again. I was with you though. I didn't think it was going to happen. My reason was just, well, he's probably feeling pretty blessed that he gets to do this, and Samantha Irvin's like they get to be together on the road doing this.
Hmm.
But then finding out
Same.
that finding out you find out the things you find out that wasn't the passion. Like, so it's like, okay, this all makes a little more sense. Like they probably both felt like they hit like, maybe ceiling isn't the right word, but it's kind of like as far as WWE was going to use them, they probably hit as far as they were going to go, and they both pursued greener pastures, which but a lot of
Yeah.
people aren't going to see it that way. A lot of people are going to like exactly what you said earlier. You
Mhm.
can't believe you're going to leave for this. Like it's so weird. It's
It is weird.
like because I got warned about the IWC and I didn't heed the warning. I was like, how
Yeah.
bad could it be? And then
Eh,
like
Understandable.
when you're
I
just
mean,
trying to enjoy it, it gets so out of hand. It's ridiculous.
well, because you're just like, what do you mean? Like, we're wrestling fans. What do you mean? Like,
Yeah, like
it
why do
can't
we
be
hate
that
this?
bad. Like,
They're
yeah,
not
like,
even on TV at the same time. You don't have to pick. You can just watch both. Like
yeah, or just watch one and that's fine. But it's also kind of like we're wrestling fans. Like, it's not that serious, but it is to some people, and I agree. It's just something that's a thing now, and it's unfortunate, but
it's a bummer.
yeah, I just feel like we gotta understand there's an outside world outside of wrestling. As much as we love wrestling, this isn't like the end all be all. Like we have to understand that these are shows, two separate shows.
Yep.
Watch it or don't watch it.
Just because you said that, it reminded me because there was at one point whenever you find a new creator that you like, you kind of binge some of their videos, and I've gone
Yeah.
through some of your videos before, and it's funny you say that because one of the videos that I had seen that you did, or it might have even been a clip, I can't remember. It might have been a clip from a stream, but you said something about like it's so funny how there's this tribalism between the fans, but these fans don't realize a lot of these wrestlers are homies. Like they're
Mhm.
on different shows. Like they might go get dinner later. Like they're best friends or something. So like that tribalism from the fan base doesn't really exist nearly as much, or maybe even at all, between the locker rooms. Like they're just
No,
wrestlers. Like I
no,
thought that was interesting.
they're in relationships too.
Yeah, they're
Zelina,
literally dating.
Malachi Black, Rhea, Buddy Matthews, like they're in relationships. Yeah.
Hmm. And Malachi isn't it with is it Zelina?
Mhm.
That was the one. Yeah. Okay. I was gonna say Andrade, but that was only because I had seen some older videos of them like pairing up or
Manage
like
him.
manager.
Mhm.
Because I'm still new to watching like AEW, instead of asking about something specific that maybe I don't really understand, you've watched it since its infancy. You saw how it spawned out of nowhere and what it's become today. Generally speaking, do you feel pretty optimistic and pretty positive about the direction that AEW has gone? Just it's a very general question. I know I'm kind of leaving it very open ended just because I'm really asking to learn. Like, does it feel like someone who's seen as much as you have, is it trending upward? Do you feel like it's kind of stagnant? What's the vibe from someone who loves it and has watched it that long?
Mhm. It's a good question. It may be open ended, but I think that's how you should ask the question. I think AEW is in a spot where if they don't improve on the things that they need to improve on, maybe there will be a plateau. I don't think AEW is going anywhere. I don't think AEW is just going to go extinct at all. They just signed a max deal, so now we're going to be streaming. I read something on Instagram that they posted today, but I could not understand it. I think it was like they're streaming Dynamite simultaneously on Max and on TBS, I
Hmm.
believe. But regardless, they got a new deal. Like they're getting deals, they're getting sponsorships. Like they're not gonna go anywhere. Do I think that they will still hit this plateau if they don't change certain things? Yes. I've been extremely vocal. If I don't know if you understand the term of sickos. I
I,
don't really.
I've seen it. I won't say I understand it, but I've seen it enough where I can kind of see.
But like sickos are essentially just kind of like people that are just like sort of like super marky and they're like, yes, book for the sickos, like book the wrestling and like book that over, like story, book that over everything else, like
Yeah.
it's sort of like that, and you can see Tony Khan booking towards that way, and then he also will tweet out saying I'm booking for the sickos, and it's like they that could be cool every now and then, but if you're just doing that, you're not catering to a casual audience when you're on a televised
Hmm.
program on cable, and now you have this deal. So I don't think it's gonna go anywhere. I don't think that at all. I do think it'll hit a plateau. Nothing has happened yet in AEW where I'm just like I'm not watching this program. I hate this program, but I can see in the lens of other people.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
and I feel
validating.
like
That's actually a validating. I like that. I like that you say that because that's kind of where I was coming from. Was like where I see the advantage that WWE has is that it is trying to cater to be like it gets a little spicy from time to time, but like typically it seems like they're trying to cater to where somebody could have their kid watch.
yeah.
And
Mhm.
I could see AEW definitely trying to please an audience that wants that EC dub feel back in the day, like we're like the crazier spots, like the glass, the tables, stuff like that. I totally get the desire to cater to that, but I can recognize that could limit you in terms of like the support you're going to get from not even just like sponsorships, because there's some companies that don't want to really be associated with like the blood and all that, which I'm sure
Mhm.
WWE struggles with as well. But
Yeah.
then just wanting to show your kid or something like that. And I could see the casual audience who isn't already pre-invested because they watched for a long time. Like you want to be able to try to attract like a kid into your show. Maybe their parents don't watch and they're like, "Oh, what are you watching?" And if the first thing they see is some of the wildest stuff that I've ever paid $50 to see or
Yeah.
something like that, I could see a parent being like, "No, like that's
Mhm.
insane." So I see why you want to fulfill that missing thing that feels like WWE's kind of gone away from, but it's also like that's going to make it tougher. That's going to be an uphill battle because your target audience is going to be more limited if you're not catering to the casual.
Yeah.
I hope that they can overcome that.
I hope so too, but also like catering to casuals, WWE does an excellent job, right?
Hmm.
Like they tell you like Michael Cole is in there saying like, "Oh, and to take you guys back, this is what happened and this is what happened."
Yep.
And they basically tell you why they're feuding. They like not only do they show you, they recap it, like you have the commentators just telling you why this is happening and over again. They keep reminding you. So if you are new, you're like, "Okay, I see why
Hmm.
they're
It's
feuding."
like they're treating every episode like this could be someone's first
If you're
show.
new viewer, yes,
Yeah.
yes, and AEW is starting to get there. They weren't there at all. They just assume that we should be excited for these two individuals, and it could be two new individuals for somebody that has never seen, right? But they're like tuning in. But they are getting better with that, and I hope they continue to progress because that's extremely important to retain the audience, right?
Hmm.
Like, let's say, like, before you watch WWE, you clicked on AEW and you just saw so and so, like you saw MJF and Adam Cole. And you're like, all right, who are these two dudes? Okay, cool, that was a cool match, whatever. But you don't know the backstory, like
I
they
don't
were
know
former
any of it.
best friends.
Hmm.
But like they're former best friends, and then one of them betrayed them because they thought the other person was
Yep.
like if you give that backstory, you're like, okay, I'm interested in this. And I think they're trying to do that now, and I hope it continues.
I've seen a lot of fans specifically call out the like pre-match videos, like these recaps. Like, we don't need these recaps. Like, we are like, there's so much time spent on recaps. I get that, but those recaps are probably why I got so sucked into like the Bloodline storyline. Like when I first
Mhm.
started watching, like those recaps, yeah, were they redundant for people who are watching every single show? I'm sure they
Yeah.
were, but like it really is. I can speak from the personal experience. That was
Mhm.
like, I was leaning forward. I was like, he did what? They did, like, they've been he turned on him, like, that's his brother. Oh my god, they're all
Yeah.
relate, like all of this stuff. If you don't know it, it's just, they're just a couple dudes fighting in the ring. But that's
Yeah.
the stuff that is going to get someone brand new feel more caught up, feel more like they have any idea what's going on. So you'll never see me complain about too many recaps anymore, because it's the reason I'm sitting here talking to you right now. That's how I got invested in those early storylines. You're probably somewhat aware, but anyone who maybe isn't aware, maybe this is one of your first videos that you're watching of me. I got into wrestling with my fiance, and it's very cool that neither one of us got each other into it. We both watched WrestleMania 39 and both fell in love with it. So no one has to like drag each other to like go to a show. We're both like, oh, they're coming to Michigan. All right, I'll take off work. I'll do, like, it's already gonna
Yeah.
happen.
Mm.
We've had some. There's definitely a misogyny issue still in person at shows. There's still weird chants. There's still a weird attitude, and I don't know if this is something you can answer, but for not only her, but I know in my community, I've got there's women in the community that who are also newer to wrestling. Is there any advice that you would give to, I don't know, either survive it or kind of get past it? Or is there any advice you would give to a newer female wrestling fan who maybe feels like this isn't a super welcoming place for me, specifically just because
Yeah.
who I am?
I think just be honest that you're a new fan. I think the thing about wrestling fans is that as much of an annoyance I think they love to teach. They love to teach you about wrestling. If you're like, oh, I'm a newer, like, if you're, I haven't, this is my first time at a wrestling show, and they're like, okay, like, I think for the most part, they're willing to teach you. But if you go in there and act like, oh yeah, like I'm a wrestling fan, and you try to sound more confident about it or cocky about it, they're gonna quiz you immediately.
Name
Now,
3 of their songs kind of attitude,
yeah,
like,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But even if they do, that's not the kind of person that you even want to
Right.
socialize with. So even if they do that, then you know to not socialize them with. Um, I just think the best way to do it is sort of find the right people. We are on the internet now, so it's easy to find those right people, the right circles. Join discords, join their community, just so you can actually be in a community that you feel safe in, because there's a lot of communities out there, especially in the IWC. Like, you can follow so many people, and then you realize, oh my god, like, I'm not a part of a community though, like, it's like
Hmm.
all these people follow me, but it's like this person is this person is this, like, I don't know where I belong in here. So just sort of try to find where you belong. And that shows, honestly, just if somebody's really trying to quiz you like that, I mean, if you want to walk away, just walk away. Just be like, cool, whatever. Like, it's like people shouldn't even be like that, I've been a fan for so long, and I've met new wrestling fans, and I've sat next to them, and they're like, oh, this is my first wrestling show, whatever. And I'm like, cool. Like, I don't
Have fun.
understand why.
Like,
Yeah, yeah, I don't understand why people are so, like, against it, or they try to gatekeep it. It's like the more people watch wrestling, the better the product is. Guess what? More people are watching WWE right now. The product is amazing right now. They're
mhm.
moving into Netflix. Why? Because more people are watching it, and now even more people are going to be watching it.
100%. I think it's great. That's great advice. And I want to finish with something that's, it could be a very quick answer, but maybe something a little bit lighter. Do you think there's any fantasy world, any future, that even for like brief moment, is there a world where WWE and AEW do any sort of forbidden door, any sort of one night,
Oh, man.
20 years do you think there's any world, do you have any hope that there could be some sort of collaboration for the good of wrestling and the fan bases themselves?
I think there was. I think Tony Khan himself has been detrimental towards that. I think his comments have gone against that agenda, maybe. I think Triple H, as much as he has an ego, he's been very forgiving. He brought CM Punk. He's done a lot of things that people are like, "Oh wow, you really did this? Okay, cool." He's working with independent promotions right now. They got WWE ID. I honestly, I hate to just put it on one individual, but honestly, I think it's Tony Khan's ego that's affecting this. Um, but I don't know if that's accurate. I
Sure.
don't, like,
It's
I
all
don't work for the
speculation.
media. Yeah, I don't work for the media. I haven't spoken to him personally, but that's just speculation on my part. Do I think there could be? It's wrestling, so you never say never, and I've always stood on that.
Hey,
So there could
people
be
would
a
have said there was no shot CM Punk was coming back, so
exactly.
I guess you
No.
never know.
And I was like, "He's not coming back, guys. Relax." Like, it should I don't know if you saw my reaction, but
Oh
I
yes.
was just like, "Okay, guys, well, this is what they're gonna say, that he's gonna return at the Rumble." I did not think he was coming back at all. So I've learned to never say never in professional
You
wrestling.
really never know with it, and that was
Mhm.
obviously it didn't. It was very cool for me that moment that CM Punk returning. It wasn't going to hit me nearly the same, but it was the moment of I saw so many people say there is no chance, and then it
Mhm.
happened. I'm like, mental note that you never know. Sometimes they really
Mhm.
might find a way, especially with you see the videos and stuff where like uh that deal was happening like that night. Like they were
Yeah.
figuring it out that night. Like he was like, I'm gonna head to the arena just in case, kind of thing. Like
Yeah.
that's crazy.
Yeah, that's professional wrestling for you. And that's why I try not to be so honed in on like one thing, Like it's like, what's your prediction for this? This is my prediction, but I'm never gonna be like, I know for a fact, because it's like, I don't know. I don't know. It's wrestling. Things could turn left. Things could go the other direction. There's missed flights too.
Hmm.
Um, for the TNA Bound for Glory, actually, there were supposed to be a lot of surprise WWE people.
Really?
Yeah, but because there was a hurricane, I think they
I
couldn't
didn't
make
know
their
that.
flight.
I didn't
Yeah,
know that.
so they couldn't even make their flight. So that's why I'm like,
So you never
never
know.
say never. Yeah, yeah.
I get that's one of the things that makes wrestling awesome. One of the things that gotten us so into it is those just you think you do, but they find a way to surprise you in ways you didn't expect, which is that's good TV. It's fun to
Mhm.
watch.
Mhm.
Um, Overall, though, Minnie, it's been a pleasure talking to you. It's been a lot of fun as someone who has enjoyed your content. Um, I think you guys will too, especially if you made it this far into this video. I promise you, you're gonna love. You're gonna love Minnie. Do you want to tell them where they could find you? Where they should find you?
Yes, mini portable everywhere on TikTok. It's mini.portable. I appreciate you having me here. D Porticus is a cool guy. I became a wrestling fan because obviously as a wrestling fan, I was like, oh, I want to know your thoughts. Good content, man. This is something that we need in the IWC. So just letting you know, you're doing a damn good job.
It's a good time, and Tally's enjoying how much it's been a very overall. It's been a very there's like a vocal minority, but the major majority wrestling
It's
fans are
it,
super welcome to people checking out the thing they love. And you were totally
mhm,
right, by the way. I said
mhm,
this, I've told this in a couple other videos that I've done with other people that uh, wrestling fans, they want to tell you about wrestling. If
mhm.
ask, they'll tell you. Like if they'll tell you the whole backstory if you ask anything about it. So
Yeah.
yeah, 100% right. It's been great. But thank you again for coming on. This was a pleasure. Thanks everybody for watching. Don't forget to check out Minnie. See you in the next one.
Bye.